All right, we're going to talk about motivation today. This is pulled from a text that focuses on organizational behavior. This is one of the topics that I included in the class so that you'd be able to get credit for the organizational behavior course in the business school and to have a little more overlap if any of you decide to do a master's in business or to get a second degree in business. You're going to need to have this course count twice. And this is one of the topics that I included to help have some overlap. So that's why you're seeing this coming out of an organizational behavior type of book. And so some of this is going to be fairly academic in nature. Some of it I'm going to let you read and not go over in great detail. But I think there's some important things that we could talk about as managers. So I can tell you at the beginning of this that, motivating people, you're going to be looked upon to do that as the manager. However, I think you might have a limited ability to do that. When you read Good to Great, you'll discover that Jim Collins has an approach to motivation, and he's basically going to say, hire people who are self-motivated, you don't have to worry about it. That's what he's going to say. Hire good people, and he's going to make the argument of, do you have the right people on the bus? Which the bus is a metaphor for the company. Do we have the right people in the organization or not? And we're going to start hiring probably based on attitude more than skill, and so that we've got people who are motivated. Now you've got to have human resource systems in place to encourage the best output of people. We've already talked about the 4 or 5 different mechanisms within human resources that you need to do. However, in the world of motivation, I think it's at least worth understanding some basic theories of motivation, so we're going to spend some time on that. So they're talking about work motivation, the psychological forces within a person that directs a person's behavior. Now, we've talked about culture for almost a month, and it gets down to behavior. Agreed? Attitude and behavior. So that's one thing. This is directly looking at that. And what is a person's level of effort? You could have someone who's very intelligent who has very little effort, and you don't get much out of them. Or you can have someone that's really not quite as intelligent but has a great level of effort and can produce more work. I was talking to a young student today trying to decide what major they wanted to do in engineering. Right now he's chemical, but he's fairly perplexed about where to go. And his concern was, I want to make sure and he's also very, very gifted. So let's argue he's going to be probably a 4.0 student. You don't get too many of those sitting in my office, and we were having this discussion when he's 18 years old. His question was, how do I maximize my potential, basically? And I told him it doesn't matter what engineering major you pick. It has a lot to do with your initiative and your work ethic when you get out. You're going to make your own reputation when you get out there. So whatever engineering major you picked, I don't know that it matters a whole lot. Pick something you like to do. It's level of effort. It's initiative. It's behavior. It's a given that this person is very smart. You look at their high school transcript, you can see that he's having no problem in Calculus 1 right now. So he's going to be a good student. So, and this is a little bit of an aside. I'm just encouraging you, whether you're brilliant or you're like me, you're somewhere in the middle of the pack. Your work ethic is going to make your reputation, and whether you make it up the chain or not, in my opinion. I told him, are you looking for new and proactive things to do at work, or are you doing what you're told all the time? Doing what you're told is fine, but I guarantee the boss really would like to see proactive and innovative things, taking initiative, versus waiting to be told what to do all the time. And as to when it comes into play here, we're looking at a person's behavior. That's what we're trying to change. And a person's level of persistence in the face of obstacles. which is another interesting way to describe behavior. That is a type of behavior, agreed? Things are not going well. Anybody who's finished a 4-year bachelor's degree understands this concept. Things didn't go well on an exam, you don't understand the teacher, whatever it may be, things are not going well. But what is your reaction? Is it a reaction to complain about it? Is your reaction to quit? Is your reaction to deal with the issue and get around it and succeed? What is your attitude towards that? So this is an interesting way of looking at motivation. Behavior, level of effort, and persistence. So some elements of work behavior, and we talked a little bit about this, kind of got some questions here. Looking at motivation and performance. So performance is an evaluation of the results. It involves determining how well or poorly a person accomplished a task. So performance can be measured objectively, right? If you're going to run the 100-meter dash and they're going to clock your time, it's an objective measure. It's sheer speed. Now, you could argue, what was your style? Did you have a good style when you ran the 100-meter dash? I don't know. That's very subjective. So, performance, I can guarantee you, when I worked with a small printing company, and a customer comes and looks at your product and says, well, that's not red. I wanted it red. And when you're looking at it, you're thinking, it looks pretty red to me. Well, that's not Lamar Cardinal red. That's Alabama red. Oh, boy. Okay. So you look at color and style, and it's very subjective, but however, it's a measure of performance. So there's, you got those two wings going on there. Motivation is only one factor among many that contributes to a worker's job performance. That's very true. You can have a highly motivated person that's not talented. Agreed? I've got some soccer players in my 7-year-old team would fit that category. Great kids, great attitude. Will do whatever I tell them to do. Fact of the matter is, they're not very fast, they're not coordinated. They just can't seem to kick the ball. Right? Just great little boys, though. Wouldn't trade them for anything, right? Wouldn't trade them for anything. But they're just not very fast. And you could argue in the world of business intelligence, there's no substitute for it. I mean, we'd love to have intelligent people. And in some degree, work ethic can make up for it. But if it's if you got a brilliant person, that's really an asset. So I think it's important there. So you got a little grid here, performance versus motivation. High level of motivation does not always result in a high level of performance. Right? Because I just don't have the talent. I'm highly motivated, but I'm not doing very well. It's like me trying to do ice hockey. Just, wouldn't happen. Wouldn't be very good. Or a high performance does not necessarily mean that they're highly motivated. They're extremely talented, but lazy. You ever known someone like that that's really, really good at something, and they just spend a little bit of effort on it, and they will do light years better than you? For me, it's people who can program a computer. Anybody here can do that? You admit you're pretty decent at programming. No? Let the record show we're 0 for 24. I think those people they're a different breed. If you can program a computer and think about the logic and how that goes, wow. I had friends that, for them, I have good friends of mine that are computer programmers, make big money. We're best of friends. A little bit of effort, they can program. remember back when I was at the University of Texas at Arlington, that's where I met those guys, and we were partnered together in our electrical engineering project. They handled the programming, obviously, and we got an A. We teamed together, used our skills where we need to go. But they were so good at programming, they did not have to give much effort. And you can think about people you know in some facet of life that are really, really good, but may not even like what they're doing. If you follow tennis, Andre Agassi would fall in that world if you read his book called Open. I'm a tennis guy, and he said he hates tennis. However, he's extremely good at it. Right? So for him, he can perform really, really well but not be motivated. So we recognize some of that. So workers with low motivation may perform at a high level if they have a great deal of ability. Okay? So if managers assume that low performance stems from low motivation, they may miss the real cause of a performance problem. So if a manager assumes that workers who perform at a high level are highly motivated, they may fail to take advantage of a person's talent. I may be performing at a high level, but I'm not motivated. This does not challenge me. Well, if that's the problem, you got to put that person on a different thing. Get them going on something else. All right. So we talked about that. This is some basic information on intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. If I'm intrinsically motivated, the behavior is performed because of its own enjoyment. You do that because you enjoy doing that, not because you're getting compensated well for it, which would be the definition of any teacher on the face of the planet, probably. At least in a public world. Right? They like what they do. Compensation is minimal. Right? And you can think of things that fit in that category for you. You do them because you enjoy it, not because of the reward that comes from it. So the source of motivation is actually performing it. There's a sense of accomplishment, and they feel like they're doing something worthwhile. And certainly if you're a university professor, there are very many times where you feel that way. I'm sitting down with an 18-year-old just minutes ago before I come into class, trying to help him figure out what to do with the rest of his life, right? You don't get that opportunity out in the real world many places. Right? That's a pretty neat deal. Hopefully I can help you. Right? So the challenge for managers is to create an environment where employees experience this intrinsic motivation. And that's not always easy to do. The job itself sometimes is just not that enjoyable. Maybe the job is very mechanistic, very procedural. It's very much the same steps all the time. I dropped off Lisa's minivan last week to have it worked on, spark plugs, water pump. It's the same, the guys doing that work, the same spark plugs and water pump every day, all the time. But what was interesting? The guys we was talking about what they were going to do to her van, and we need to change this belt, this need to flush the radiator, all the 100,000-mile stuff. But you know what he took me over to? A 57 Chevrolet that they were rebuilding. We looked under the hood, and he was showing me how they had put in a 2006 engine out of a Chevy truck and put it in there, shined it up, and how it was going to run this 57 Chevy. That's what motivated those guys. Agreed? Fixing up that classic car, putting in an oversized engine that didn't exist in 1957, and putting it into this vehicle and restoring that operation. That's what they're motivated about. He said, man, you should have seen the car we had yesterday. We just shipped out this beautiful Corvette. Okay. You get where I'm going at? It's not changing spark plugs on a 2010 Odyssey. It's that 57 Chevy. It's that classic Corvette that those guys like doing. They were telling me this, that, and the other about this engine, about the car, what they were going to do to it. I don't know how long I was there, but we only talked a little bit about the van. We were talking about the Chevy.